Hello all. If we were in class today, we'd be moving our desks around with COVID going on. We will be separating out. Well, today I'm going to have you work at home and see if you can make some solutions. And hopefully maybe we can use some common materials that you have at home. And then I have some solution questions for you for an assignment today. But let's go ahead and get started talking about solutions. So as we talk about solution, a solution is a homogeneous mixture of two or more substances. And hopefully you've already seen my videos and other information about these homogeneous mixtures. And we're going to be studying those in class as soon as we get back. And so just a quick review of a homogeneous mixture. If you look at this knife right here, with the exception of the markings and the screws, you can see it looks homogeneous, almost like aluminum. But do you think we could really make a knife out of aluminum? No, probably not. We'd have to take that aluminum and mix it, melt it down and mix it with some other metals to make this homogeneous mixture. This is not on your note sheet, but something you should be aware of. And there, of course, are some pictures of some heterogeneous mixtures. Now, there are couple different kinds of homogeneous mixtures. You've seen one from my fridge, the milk. A solution is one type of homogeneous mixture, but in order for something to be a solution, light has to travel through that solution. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be taking a look at today. Colloids are also homogeneous, and we've already studied milk before, and so you know milk is mostly water with big chunks of fat floating around. So those big chunks of fat don't allow the light to travel through it. So even though it's homogeneous, it's not a solution. It is called a colloid. Now, when we form a solution, and hopefully you're going to get to do that today virtually, if you look at the picture here, you can see those water molecules actually physically go over and grab what's being dissolved. In this case, we're dissolving solid sugar in water. And as they do that, they pull the sugar molecules apart. And as you can take a look right here, you can see that that's how the sugar is dissolving. Now, these little pentagonal shaped sugar molecules are going to be so small that they're going to be less than 2 nanometers in diameter, and so light is going to be able to travel through this solution. Now, as you're doing this and you're making this sugar water solution, this homogeneous mixture is going to have the sugar spread evenly throughout, and that's why it's homogeneous. Now, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, why doesn't the sugar settle out? Well, if we take a look at this dissolved sugar, there are going to be intermolecular forces between those sugar particles or those sugar molecules and the water molecules pictured here. You know those intermolecular forces. We studied those before the holidays, and so you know what those would be. All right, moving right along with our solution. For our purposes, generally, a solution is going to be a solid dissolved in a liquid. The liquid is usually most often going to be water for our purposes, like salt water, for example. And I know some of you said you had salt water at home. I was wondering if some of you had some aquariums earlier this week. Solutions that have water as the main ingredient are called aqueous solutions. And so a lot of times I think about aqueous, sort of reminds me of agua, the Spanish word for water. And so that's how I remember that solutions where water is the main ingredient, water's the solvent, are aqueous. Now, when something dissolves, and hopefully we're going to see that today, it's going to appear to disappear. So whatever's being dissolved is going to spread out so much that it's going to appear to disappear. Something that is able to dissolve is called soluble. And so that is a vocabulary word you will need to know. When something cannot dissolve, it's called insoluble. Another vocabulary word you need to know. And hopefully you've jotted these down on the notes sheet for today's class. All right. The solute, like, excuse me, the sugar that we saw earlier is what's being dissolved. The solvent, like the water, is actually doing the dissolving. So 2 more vocabulary words. So let's do a quick vocabulary review. Oh, hold on just a second. So in order for a solution to form, before my vocabulary review, the solute must dissolve completely. These solutions are going to be transparent, and the molecules are so small that they don't block light. Light can travel through a solution. And the little parts never settle out. Now for the vocabulary review. See if you can remember what each of these terms means. All right, so what'd you say for dissolve? Hopefully you said that's when it disappears or disperses. How about solute? Yes, that is what's being dissolved, letter D. How about the solvent? Yes, that is what's doing the dissolving, C. And insoluble? B. Yes, obviously something cannot dissolve. So that's a good, quick little vocabulary review for us. Let's continue talking about solutions, because while we're going to be mostly looking at solutions that include water as the solvent, there are solutions that don't contain water. Like, for example, gasoline. When you go to the gas station, you're going to pick how much octane you're going to have in your gas solution. Like, I usually pick 87 at the pump. There's other things mixed in with the gas, like, for example, ethanol and things like that. And so you're going to pick those out as well when you pump your gas. A tincture is another kind of solvent, or excuse me, solution, where alcohol is the solvent. So a lot of medicines are actually tinctures. You may not have realized that. Also, other states of matter, like the solids that we saw earlier, can be solutions. The gas in the air that we breathe. Now, this isn't the whole atmosphere going all the way up past the clouds, but just the air that's right here with us in this part of our atmosphere is actually a solution. It looks homogeneous. Light is able to travel through it. Soda is also a solution. It does have some gas dissolved in it, and we can also call soda a suspension. And I'll tell you about that more when we get back to school. The last thing I want you to be aware of is that there can be solid solutions, like I mentioned earlier. When we melt multiple metals together and put those together, they're called an alloy. And so for any of our band musicians, you may play a brass instrument, and that's just a solution of zinc and copper. So a little bit of information for you about solutions this morning, and then you have an assignment to do on Schoology as well. I hope that we'll be back in school next week, and I'll be able to see you next Tuesday.